Welcome back to Nightcap Chat, the pop culture podcast. We talk all things comics, video games, movies, TV shows, and more. This is our 2019 Christmas special. Blade O'Neill.
I'm Ken Brown.
I'm Lance O'Neill.
And we are eating, so excuse us here, but Merry Christmas. It is Christmas Eve today, but we're recording this the day before. We're going to keep this short so everyone can spend time with their family and loved ones and all that fun stuff. And Christmas is a wonderful time, and I'm not gonna get sappy on you guys, but I do love Christmas. Christmas is a lot of fun, even though it's hectic driving around and parking, and there's sales and there's lots of people around.
It's the holiday spirit, right?
Something like that. I regret every time I leave the house, but without getting too negative here. Merry Christmas, awesome. You guys. Thanks for coming and doing this.
Yes, dude.
Merry Christmas.
So we cooked up two quick things for you all. Oh shoot, let me grab my note here. Now that I almost knocked over our table here. So Christmas is here. So, I mean, everyone has Christmas traditions, at least if you celebrate Christmas. What are some of your favorite things that just, come with Christmas? I mean, I'll start for me. I throw a wine and cheese party with my friends, usually the weekend before Christmas. And it's just a way to, hang out, in the Christmas spirit. Some of us dress up, some of us wear ugly sweaters. I don't wear ugly sweaters. I think ugly sweaters are incredibly stupid. But we try different wines, different cheese, this year. My friend brought a bunch of different whiskeys, and we sampled some and just hung out and talked and, ate good food. And, I think it's just about, to me, there's nothing better than spending time with your loved ones and eating good food. I mean, like, to me, that's the epitome of life.
Well, I wear ugly sweaters. No, I'm just kidding. Well, for me, I don't know. I just like me and my wife. We usually, Christmas morning, we'll spend, the day, the morning opening up presents and stuff, and then just, relaxing and just trying to have a good time. And usually Christmas Eve, we'll open up like one gift we'll get to pick.
Yes.
And just to make it, kind of like, if it's something that's fun, it might be like a video game or just something that we can like have some fun with, and just kind of just have some good time together. Which is obviously the most important part. Sometimes, you just get caught up in all the gifts and trying to get stuff for everybody. But at the end of the day, you have to make sure you spend enough time with your family and try to have the best time you can. So I think for me, that's just that's my favorite time of the year, is just spend time with my wife and giving her little surprises here and there. And it's fun.
Yeah, that's what I love most about Christmas too, is just the day away from everything else that matters in the world. And I said too, it was like that, the time to be able to just get away. And even though it's like traveling around to see different family and doing things that aren't always at home and relaxing, by the time that day's over, it's always something special that happened, because you got to be around people that you care for all year round, but don't get to get that time with them until that day. And you totally appreciate every moment that you have. And sometimes, not all families get together all the time, but even though the families don't always get along all the time, it still turns into be some kind of magical day, because people do appreciate the time that they do get with you. And it's something that's, I don't know, it's just a magical day. It's kind of weird how each Christmas is the best holiday when it comes to being around people every year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all pretty much had the same answer, just kind of little variations of the same answer anyway. So, Christmas is a little different when you're a kid. You're excited about opening presents, like, oh, what's Santa gonna bring me? And unfortunately, Santa couldn't be here as a guest star this year, but maybe next year. Well, we're working on it.
It's flew by.
So go around, and do you have like a favorite Christmas present that you remember opening as a kid? So I'm not talking like anything recent or adult. If you need a second to think, I'll go ahead and go first. I think one of the lowest hanging fruits for this answer for me is, I think I was 4 years old. I got a Power Wheels.
Okay.
It was a red Jeep Power Wheels. I remember I watched the VHS of me opening this. So I remember exactly how it went. The presents were under the tree, and oblivious 4-year-old Blade did not notice that against the wall next to the tree, like there was a giant quilt covering this Power Wheel sized box. And it's literally behind me the whole time. I walked right past it. I didn't notice this huge blanket just sitting next to the tree. And that was the last thing I opened. Like, I think I probably got some like Hot Wheels and stuff. And as I'm opening something, you see my dad reach behind and he pulls the blanket off of this giant box that's behind me. And they're like, oh, Blade, like there's one more. And I opened this giant box, and it was a Power Wheels that I was oblivious to. But like, it has to be one of my favorites too, because like, man, like when Lance is my brother, for those of you who don't know, but like, how often did we drive around in that Power Wheels?
All the time. And filled it with acorns in the back too. The little back of it had like a little trunk, and you
not acorns, pine cones.
Pine cones,
Nice.
yeah, pine cones, and we used them as currency.
Yeah, nobody is saying right now.
Okay, so we used to use them as currency for like stupid little things, like we had chalk on the sidewalk, and we would put chalk, and there would be like a toll, and then like you'd have to like pay the toll when you came by, and you'd have to use the pine cones. And I had my bike, remember, and I was like the speed demon or whatever, and then like I would always be like the cops, and I'd come like get you if you didn't pay or whatever, and and then we used the little
we had a notepad to write tickets.
Yeah, and then the little what are those things that when they fell off the tree they would spin?
I don't know, because I saw somebody got a tattoo of those the other day, and I showed it to Erica, and she didn't know what I was talking about. Do you know, Ken?
So what are like?
They're like a little seed with
like
a wing.
Buckeye seeds? No,
That doesn't sound right.
Okay,
Maybe it's
Like
an East Coast
Tweedledee
thing.
or something. I don't know.
Like,
I think we made up a
we
name
call
for
them.
it. But yeah, we got a lot of use out of that.
so
out
like,
of
were
that
they
Power Wheels.
acorns? Like, were they possibly acorns?
No, they were just like, they looked like little, almost like wings, but there was like a seed at the end of it, and then it was
Yeah.
just like a wing. And when it fell off the tree, it would spin like a helicopter
nice.
and fall down. But we used to pick those up, and we would use them also for like some type of currency or something.
It was like mulberry tree stuff.
No, because the only thing we had there was a pine tree, and I don't know what the other tree was. I don't know.
I don't know either. I mean, I have to look this up.
Yes,
It doesn't
cool.
matter. So who wants to go next on a favorite Christmas gift?
I can't top that. That's pretty intense.
Hey, this isn't a competition.
I know.
It doesn't even have to be your favorite. Just maybe something fun.
All I remember is like I used to remember one year. I can't remember what the gift was, which is funny. But all I remember is like I was so curious. Like I poked a hole in the paper to see if I could see what it was. And the hole turned out being bigger than I thought. We went, oh crap, they're going to discover that I tried looking at the present. I was so afraid that I was ruining Christmas because there would be a hole in the paper. And I was trying to like flip it over and trying to like, okay, like hide the fact that there was a hole in the paper and hope that nobody would notice it. And then on Christmas morning, it's like, I'm grabbing this one first. Like, well, it was my turn to pick.
So you got away poking a hole.
Yeah, and it was kind of sad. Yeah, so yeah, I know. Go there. Right? Only once I got put here. But it turned out to be, like, if I remember correctly, this big black Jeep that had, like, an action figure character that you could put in it, too. And that's what I remember being the first ever action figure I think I ever had as a kid. Wow. And it was, like, a black and gold Bronco International like Ertl toy giant Jeep. And I remember like taking that outside and playing all over with it. And it wasn't like a ride-in Jeep, but it was still, pretty awesome to be able to start your first action figure adventures being like around that same age. Like I want to say like 3 or 4 years old. And it was just like, oh my gosh, like you always had Hot Wheels, but this was the first big die-cast vehicle I remember having as a kid, and it was a blast.
Is that Ken's origin story? Is that how it all began with the comic books and that one action figure, and that was it?
Yeah, it was like just it was an awesome. I liked cars already, and then getting something that was larger than little Hot Wheels. You can't fit little figures in Hot Wheels.
Right.
That just kind of became like, oh my gosh, dude, this is epic. And
that's cool.
Fun stuff.
For me, I think it would be getting the GameCube.
Nice.
I don't remember how old I was, but I was probably like 6 or 7 though.
Really?
Right? I couldn't have been that old. I don't know. Maybe it was 8. I don't know. Anyway, I just remember getting it and being so excited to play. And then like, because we all had the N64, until then. And I remember thinking, I know this must be the same way to set it up. And I know I set it up like super fast because it's the same thing. You just plug the colors into the colors and that's it. And you find an outlet. And the first game we had was the X-Men fighting game. What was it called? X-Men. What is
X-Men Next Dimension?
Yes. Yeah. X-Men Next Dimension. I remember just as soon as I got it, we were just playing that. And I think it's funny because I'm pretty sure I had the game before I opened up my presents and I was going through all my presents and someone got me that as a present and didn't realize that I hadn't opened up the GameCube yet. So I was like, oh, awesome. I can't wait to get a GameCube. And then I got a GameCube.
What do you do with this?
Yeah. Because I think
that sounds familiar.
Because I think our uncle, Jimmy, I think he got it for us.
Okay.
And I opened that already and I was like, oh, well, I can't really use this. And then I got the GameCube and then I was like, oh, I'm going to play X-Men. And couldn't get past the Sentinels for the first week, but it was still like really fun.
Man, you remember things like I remember crazy stuff, I feel like, but then you come up with things and I'm like, wow. Like, I don't even remember. Cause I remember before we get too far, one of the things we were going to do is we're going to take a little look back at 2019 here. And, one of my favorite things about 2019 is we brought back Nightcap chat. I wanted to bring it back in January, but I was trying to make sure I did it right and I have the right people. And I wasn't sure if Ken even wanted to do this. And I wanted him there all along. And I didn't get to asking him until probably a couple of months after that. And then, Ken really helped make this possible, being here almost every week. And gosh, and then you're literally like a walking comic book encyclopedia, I mean that with, the most affectionate way possible.
It's hard to walk around as a book, though.
I bet.
It's very awkward moving. I do here.
I think we launch in March? Yeah, March. We finally got everything off the ground. But Ken, you had this idea instead of the 12 days of Christmas. We're kind of calling this the 12 months of Christmas because we went through the entire year and picked our 12 favorite things that happened. Little disclaimer, February is kind of lame. So I don't know, Marvel, DC, Star Wars. I don't know what you guys are all doing in February, but February's lacking. Well,
it's Christmas time. I'm going to put my sports spin onto February this year. Everybody gets presents during Christmas, and I get the one sports conversation of the year.
There you go.
For February. So you guys will be getting something, a little bit of a sports twist to it.
Yeah, no, and that's great. We're all things pop culture, right? Mm-hmm. So January, my favorite thing, and this is, I feel like this is insignificant compared to the rest of my list, but it was really good. And that was Punisher season 2.
Yes.
John Bernthal is just an amazing Punisher. Gosh. And what a great season.
Absolutely.
And a great ending. What, you didn't see it? I caught Lance with his mouth. Oh, okay. Well, without spoiling it for Lance, I guess, it was a fun season. The Punisher, aside from Daredevil, is probably one of the best Netflix shows because, a lot of them, unfortunately, were lacking. And I don't know about you, but I'm hoping that we get to see John Bernthal more integrated into the MCU once these Netflix rights expire.
Yes, I cannot wait for those Netflix rights to expire. With all due respect to Netflix, they put on a lot of good product, and they did a good job with Marvel helping develop that in the first place. Mm-hmm. But I'm super excited to see these roles reprised again and getting going and saying that, okay, the John Bernthal Punisher is still going to be part of our future Marvel MCU. And same with Kristen Ritter from Jessica Jones. She was a great Jessica Jones.
She was fine.
And I don't know. I liked all the characters Netflix. The Charlie Cox doing Daredevil.
Charlie Cox doing Daredevil was
unbelievable.
Phenomenal.
Yes, and these are characters that are part of the MCU, whether we like it or not. And hopefully, they'll keep it that way for us.
Oh no, I like it. I like everybody to be part of the MCU.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's also good that it's going to be Marvel Studios.
Yes,
doing it. That's the thing. That's also a big part. Is it's it's not just Marvel TV or whatever. It's Marvel Studios.
Yeah, especially now that Marvel TV has folded into Marvel Studios. That is no longer a separate entity. Like we're all home. This is all good. So February, my February list is blank. So Ken, I mean, what was the big thing for February for you? Like the best thing that you brought up to me was that Conan thing. And I don't even care about that.
Yeah, I'm not even a huge Conan fan. I was just trying to find something comic pop culture related February. And there's a couple things that revolve around my world in February that I think are pretty awesome. The first one is that downtown Glendale, they do a hot air balloon festival.
Oh, that's pretty.
And that's the last of Glendale glitters, they say, until the chocolate festival happens in February.
The chocolate festival happens in February?
Yes, and the chocolate festival in downtown Glendale is a blast. Yeah. It's something that they touch on novel writers, they touch on just different types of chocolate. It's an open house for downtown Glendale for one last holiday season feel.
We've been there once. It's fun, and
it's just something it's a really cool vibe, and it's a great way to kind of kick off that, hey, we're fully into the new year, and this is a fun place to be part of. And the second part of February that I really enjoy is I've been a huge football fan for years, and the first Sunday of February usually tends to be Super Bowl Sunday. And to me, that's kind of the sports holiday for us and all of our friends. We get together. The next closest thing to it, I would say, is WrestleMania or Royal Rumble for us.
Okay.
We get a bunch of group of people together that have the common love for sports. It doesn't matter who's playing in the game. It's just a good time to get family, food, and the Super Bowl tends just to be the central sports Christmas side of what's going on that day. And it's just a great day. As I said, just same elements of Christmas, dude. Yeah, it's a game that we usually don't care about, but it's still fun to watch because you're supposedly getting the best of both AFC and NFC for one day to have a game that hopefully turns out to be a magical game. And past couple of years, they've been some pretty good games lately.
And that's what Christmas is about, right? Is spending time together.
Yes.
For me, February, I mean, I already know we already said it's kind of like a lump of coal as far as Marvel, DC, and all that stuff goes. But for me, it's pitchers and catchers reporting for baseball.
Nice. Spring training.
Spring training's about to start. I'm such a big baseball fan. And especially we're in Arizona, right?
Yes, it's the home of spring training.
Spring training. So it's the beginning for me of the season. Although baseball's kind of all year round now with all the off-season deals and trades and everything. But it's the start of a new, fresh season that you've been waiting for.
Dude, and spring training is a blast in Arizona. Have you guys never been out to spring training?
Oh, no, I have. I had passes that I had badges that I used to walk in at Peoria Sports Complex because we used to do the advertising for the thing. So we used to just walk over there on our lunch and grab a hot dog, and we could sit on the lawn, have a beer, and watch the game just to get out of the office for a few minutes. This brings us to March, which is I think is probably my favorite thing, or one of my favorite top three things, definitely, that happened this year. And I'm sure you guys agree with me.
Oh, yes.
Was the Disney Fox merger officially took place. I don't remember the date, but it was in March. And aside from the Spider-Man stuff, the last of the Marvel properties came home. And that to me, that was Christmas for me, for sure.
Absolutely.
I was so happy. It was,
so sick of Fox holding X-Men and Fantastic Four hostage for all those years and giving us stuff that they thought was their Fantastic Four and their X-Men. And we're kind of like, enough is enough, you guys. Stop making it so hard for the comic book readers to relate to what you're doing, where Marvel ignored the Fantastic Four in their universe for about 3 years.
Yeah, just
after that last Fantastic Four movie came out, because there was no story they could tell that could relate to it.
Yep. I mean, and X-Men are the X-Men rights have some of my favorite characters like Deadpool, Cable, Domino, just the fact that they weren't integrated with the rest of everything Marvel is doing with the MCU, was really sad. And I'm really excited to see the mutants play well. And I mean, we get Fantastic Four back, which is cool, but it's mostly cool because we get Doctor Doom and Silver Surfer and Galactus and Uatu. That's what's cool about the Fantastic Four rights. All respect to the Fantastic Four, but I mean, that's
the negative
where
zone,
it's at.
all this fun stuff that you can do science fiction wise. Marvel's now got the opportunity to integrate into their storytelling. They did a great job with Endgame using the time travel aspect and going into the microverse with Ant-Man, but Fantastic Four is going to open up, and X-Men are going to open up so many new universal things that are going to be almost Star Wars level for the Marvel universe.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see, and you know, I know Marvel. I mean, if Marvel did one storyline and you had to pick one, it would have been Infinity War, right? I mean, like I think we all would agree with that. It was just it was such an iconic and amazing story. At the same time, it also kind of sucks that it almost seemed like Marvel was forced to do that first because they didn't have the Fantastic Four, the X-Men to do other storylines before they went with an Endgame with a Infinity War, because that's something that you could have dragged out for forever. You could have done that in 25, 40 more movies and still we would have been like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So that's the only thing that's kind of unfortunate is like we did kill off certain characters. You know, for me, you know, Iron Man's going to be gone, but at the same time, they can still, you know, replace, I guess, you know, his kind of character type with, you know, Reed Richards is that smart guy who can try figuring out things, who's, you know, arguably smarter than Iron Man or just as smart as Iron Man, right? So, you know, I think there's a lot of good that's going to come out of that deal, and I'm so excited for the future. And that was such a huge month.
Yes.
Yeah, and speaking of which, I mean, talk about a whirlwind that jumps right into April, and like that brought us Endgame. And the movie that was
March also had Captain Marvel.
No, I did forget about that. I intentionally left that off my list.
It's sad. Like that was one of my favorite DC movies, which is really weird to say.
No, he's talking about Captain Marvel.
Oh, I thought about the Shazam Captain Marvel. My bad, dude.
No, I'm just being spiteful.
That's all right, yeah.
But Endgame, I mean, one of well, I mean, I guess Spider-Man finished off that phase, but I mean, Endgame, you know, resolved Infinity War. There was this huge buildup, you know, that took place over the course of what, like 11 years.
Absolutely.
22 movies, 23 movies, or whatever, and. You know, I mean, it had its faults, but I mean, talk about satisfying endings. I mean, I think this was the year of satisfying endings.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just good.
Yeah, it's funny too, because I mean, it is like there's, you know, it's 2019. You know, I said too, like 2020 actually is the last of the decade from what we'd established earlier.
Yep, the boring 20s.
Let's do it.
Everything has come to a close now. Now what?
And so now it's like, well, it's going to be the decade of beginnings is what this is going to turn into. It seems like that we had the first 20 years of 2000 be like a pretty epic 20 years of movies. I mean, you know, the Spider-Man went through 3 franchise reincarnations.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, X-Men went through 3 X-Men reincarnations in its own way too.
Right.
But Marvel stayed the path since they started back in 2006, was it? 2007?
Well, first Iron Man was 2008.
2008. Okay, so we've had 12 years of consistency that can be done again starting in 2020. And we get a full 20 years, I'm sure, because now we do have Fantastic Four. We do have X-Men. We do have the whole Marvel Universe. We have the Eternals, which I hope is not the beginning of the end, because I'm hoping we're going to get the Guardians of the Galaxy impression out of Eternals, where nobody's expecting crap out of that movie. Because what? Who read Eternals unless you're a huge Jack Kirby fan or Neil Gaiman fan, which there is a lot of Neil Gaiman fans out there, but people probably don't even know he wrote an Eternals miniseries.
You know, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and that's the guy that created Sandman back in the day. And so there's material that they could pull from, because Inhumans was the first bust and people got scared.
Well, but that's the fault of Marvel TV, and luckily it's gone.
Yes, and Eternals, if they hit the ground running with Angelina Jolie, you know, isn't she one of the main actresses in
Salma
it?
Hayek too.
And Salma Hayek, they've got a good cast going together, so that could groundwork. Boom! If the Eternals can introduce us to the Fantastic Four, and you know, whatever, imagine they put in the High Evolutionary to introduce the X-Men.
I love the High Evolutionary.
Do you know what
so
I mean?
like I'm excited for the Eternals. Like I don't even know a lot of, honestly, I don't know a lot about the Eternals, but I know them.
Yes,
you know, so I
but
mean,
it's not
I'm
on
excited.
top of anybody's reading list ever in any Marvel history. Like Guardians of the Galaxy, who's going to tell me like, oh, my favorite team growing up was Guardians of the Galaxy?
No, it was nobody's favorite team.
And that book or that comic led to a movie that hit it out of the park.
Especially with characters like Rocket Raccoon. Like nobody liked Rocket Raccoon before the movies.
I'm sorry. Groot.
That's not true.
How many people said I am?
What?
That's not true. We know that.
Why?
Remember the guy we went to that one time we went to Chipotle.
Oh, that's right.
We walked into
Chipotle fan.
Chipotle. This guy has a Rocket Raccoon tattoo on his forearm. Huge. Like, takes up his whole forearm.
Since the 80s, I hope?
He's had it forever. And he was like, and we're like, oh, you're excited about the movie? He's like, no, because now everyone's going to think he's so cool. And I've liked him this whole time. I'm like,
That's how I feel about Deadpool. Like, I liked Deadpool since the 90s, and nobody knew who he was. And I always had to explain to people. And now Deadpool's as popular as Spider-Man, and they think he's so funny. I'm like, I'm not even interested in liking Deadpool because they're like, oh, I love Deadpool. He's so funny. I'm like, it's so much more than that.
It's the Harley Quinn effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm bittersweet about there being an Alpha Flight movie. If they ever come up with one, I'm going, oh my gosh, I've been an Alpha Flight fan since I was a kid. And who can claim that? But then everyone's going to become an Alpha Flight fan. Oh, I've been a Guardian fan since 2006. I go, he's been dead since 84.
I have a friend who has liked Alpha Flight since the 90s. And like, you should meet him.
That's okay. That'd be cool.
That was the first, but that was between you two guys. You're the only two I know. Yes. Like, yeah, I love Alpha Flight. I got a buddy
from Canada. I go, dude, you're a legitimate Alpha Flight fan. It's like, you're from Canada and you get it. Cool. I appreciate it. But
so are you saying I should hope that they never do a Black Cat movie?
Yeah, you should.
Black Cat is awesome.
Yeah,
dude, that was, I'm going to be one of those few people that probably are on the same plane level as many people. But when I first started reading Spider-Man, Black Cat was Spider-Man's girlfriend, not Mary Jane. And so I'm one of the few people that prefer Black Cat to Mary Jane when it comes to storytelling.
Black Cat over Mary Jane.
A lot of people say, no way, Mary Jane's so much better than Black Cat.
Not a chance.
I go, just because she's a redhead doesn't mean every single redhead's better than the Black Cat.
I am partial to redheads, but
yes, but
I like Black Cat to Spider-Man. Yeah, absolutely.
And like Stan Lee did such a focus on redheads beating the hottest girls in the Marvel Universe. Did you notice that?
I do notice because like redheads are like 2% of the population, and a lot of superheroes that are females seem to have
Grey,
red
Mary
hair.
Jane Watson,
Medusa,
Black Widow.
I mean, even Patsy Walker, wasn't she like a redhead when she first became Hellcat?
I
Black Widow
don't
too.
remember.
You're right. Yeah,
Black Widow. Yeah.
And Black Cat was like, oh my gosh, dude, this chick's hot. So I knew that was like my Spider-Man girlfriend as a kid.
Yeah.
I have the first appearance of Black Cat from every country.
Nice, dude. Spider-Man 194.
From every country, but it's like from every, is
every
written
translation.
Every translation. So there's one from Spain, in Spanish.
Yes.
And then there's one, that's from Mexico, and it's in Spanish also, but it's not the same from the one from Spain. Yeah. And then there's a UK one, and then there's a Dutch one, and there's there's a bunch of
like the variants.
There's a Greek one. There's a bunch of them.
Do you think that's what kind of influenced them to go with the black and white suit for Spider-Man? Because that was the era when he was dating Black Cat, even before he had the black and white suit. And then next thing you know, is like when they did, it was supposed to be black, red, and white when it first started, when the first concept of it. And then I wonder, it's like, you know what? He's dating Black Cat right now. And that outfit's pretty cool. And how cool would that be when they're fighting together? It looks like they're on the same team, the black and white there. Just the theory.
Yeah.
It's interesting how that fits so perfectly at that era, because that's what literally transitioned me from cartoons into comics was that black and white suit Spider-Man.
Yeah, I mean, that's the
symbiote Spider-Man.
That's the good stuff.
That's everyone's favorite Spider-Man, though.
Gosh,
yeah.
Really? Wow, dude. No? A lot of people told me they that's why they went back to the red and blue, because there was so much backlash.
Yeah, there was a lot
fans.
of backlash when it first
that's
came out.
not Spider-Man. That's something different.
Alicia loves Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Her favorite Spider-Man is symbiote Spider-Man.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Wow, dude. Yeah, that's what got me hooked. I can see like why someone that's getting into Spider-Man for the first time would find that so cool, because my argument is, how many red and blue spiders do we see running around looking scary around your house? None. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's like Stan Lee's homage to the fact of like that, okay, Superman was the first superhero that really made this all work. I want to pay homage to the red and blue and make Spider-Man a red and blue costume.
Yeah, I'm partial to black though. You know, I mean, it's the symbiote suit is cool. Like that's hard to say. Like that's.
I did not like Venom for the longest time because how much I like the black and white Spider-Man suit.
Wow, that's crazy. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's like it took me a long time to like Venom, and it's something that they finally developed the character. Other than being, because when I saw Venom, it's saying that suit is the villain to Spider-Man. Do you know what I mean? And that's the thing too. It's like that. Hey. That was what was passionate for me about how cool Spider-Man looked, was because of that suit. Yeah. And you're evolving the character. You devolved the character and said that era sucked by making that costume a villain.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, no, I respect that. May was gearing up for the summer movies. So for me, Detective Pikachu was like the best thing out of May because I'm a lifelong Pokemon fan. I've been playing the game since they came out in 1998. That I never, when they first announced Detective Pikachu, I was like, this is stupid. This is going to bomb. Of all of the things they're going to do a movie for, like the Detective Pikachu game, like it's a spin-off game with a talking Pikachu. Like how dumb is that? And never have I been so wrong. Like this is probably one of my favorite movies of all time now, just because like, I mean, we talked about fan service. Like this was like fan service to a T.
Nice.
They had a whole story. Did you see it? Okay, well, without spoiling it, like they had so many fan service things, and I was like, man, if only, this one truth was true, and they revealed it then to be true, and I was like, wow, like now this is perfect, and this is the exact mythology. So, and it was cool to see Pokemon live action. I thought they did a really good job, and it was a cute story, and it worked within the universe, and even their reason for Pikachu talking, I was like, yes, now we can do a Marvel thing, and we can do a Pokemon movie that takes place within this universe based on each of the main series Pokemon games, and I think it would totally work.
Yeah, sorry, this year's been a little rough for me to catch up on things. So, so I had that written down, but I haven't seen it, so I can't really talk about it. So for me, one thing that my little Christmas was the birth of the Sonic the Hedgehog meme.
Oh wow! Okay,
the birth of the Sonic. What do you mean?
That's when they put out the trailer for Sonic the Hedgehog, and everyone just lost their mind. Like, what is this?
What is
and
this?
It created a meme, and it's an amazing meme, and it's still out there today. And as much as I hated the trailer, there was some positivity that came out of it.
And that's got to be almost unprecedented that they a big studio put out a major movie that they spent a lot of money on, and they're like, man, there's so much backlash. If we do not change this movie is going to fail.
Wow.
And I think that kind of set the groundwork for something that happened. I think they announced just this morning, the movie Cats is officially bombing and getting literally scathing reviews, not just bad reviews, but literally saying how weird and a disaster and disturbing it is. They pulled the movie. They're pulling the movie. It just came out a couple of days ago.
And this is not done yet. They're reworking
it. There's mistakes in the CG and everything's creepy. They're reworking all of the effects and redistributing it. And it's expected to be ready for download like really soon.
Wow.
That I believe is unprecedented.
Yeah, it's like that. Okay, this movie does not succeed, but 2 weeks we got to get out of the theaters.
Yeah, and I think also they're starting to get the idea, because like even if you look at the bigger films like some of the Marvel properties that Marvel did not have, a lot of those movies were bombing, and it was like, well, why are these movies doing so good? And besides, obviously we didn't like the movies. It was also like fans have the ability to just make your movie bomb. Like Marvel fans have shown that like we're not going to go support your terrible movie if we don't want to, because Marvel fans just won't show up. Because you can just see the difference between there's been some okay Marvel movies, and I'm not gonna lie, like Thor wasn't the greatest, but it still did well.
I liked Thor. I mean, Thor 2 wasn't that great.
That's what I meant. Thor 2.
And Iron Man 3 was, I mean, probably one of the worst.
And it did over $1 billion.
What, Iron Man 3?
Yeah.
Did it?
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that kind of just shows you where like, hey, if you're getting bad reviews, or the fan base is saying, what is this? Maybe you should take the time and put the little extra money into fixing whatever they're saying, and it will work out for you. And we'll see what happens with the Sonic movie, and obviously with the Cats thing.
Well, I mean, the Sonic, he does look like Sonic now. He looks a lot better. Whether or not the movie's going to be good, like Sonic looks great.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's what you need. Is like you just want something people to believe that what they're seeing is worth looking at.
Yeah, I don't know.
My May's free comic book day.
Oh yes, what an awesome event! We trooped that with the 501st, and that was so much fun. That event is so
partnership
in Drona Comics.
It's funny like how this is supposed to be a day to celebrate comics, and it's turned into a day that the community celebrates.
And
comics.
Talk about like Christmas in May.
Yes, Christmas in May.
Perfect.
That is. Free Comic Book Day is Christmas in May. We purchased over 2,000 comics from Free Comic Book Days, more or less distribution order form through Diamond, which is our comic distributor. And we just hand them out for free to celebrate the world of comic books. And anybody that usually comes out the week of a movie, and they pushed Endgame into April this year, so it should have been Endgame, but it was just on its own an event actually worldwide free comic book day happens. But we started partnering with the library across the street a couple of years ago, and it's turned into a little bit of like a mini convention that people can go to for free.
Yeah. I mean, there's cosplayers. I mean, you can take pictures with all these cosplayers, and the 501st is there. And so you get movie accurate Star Wars costumes. You can get
artists.
free comic books.
Yeah,
Yeah.
free comic
Artists. Wasn't there was like sword fighting, I think.
Yes.
And like, was there a balloon person, or am I just making stuff up now?
There probably was a balloon person. I can't remember that. I bet you there was people that just asked, "Hey, can I be part of this event?" Which is great. And I said, "Yeah." It's like we even did like a supercast this year too, as well, for the first time. And I can't remember, like there was, man, I think you were doing the 501st, or
yes, I was trooping.
Yes, and so, but it's we did the first ever mega cast where we helped promote podcasts across this valley, and that was pretty cool too, because it got me for a short period of time. Oh, man, dude, it's like, I hate name dropping, but we got to work with Frank Caliendo for a little bit this year. And that was like a blast to be able to be part of the Comic Playground podcast and part of just the world of realize like that. Okay, there's a difference between having to choose between being a professional podcaster and doing it for fun. And I love doing this for fun. I realize now because I'm sure you guys may have heard this or not heard this. I was a journalism major, and one of my dreams was always to have a sports radio show and do something to talk about sports and pop culture together. And Frank gave me the opportunity to do that for a little bit this year, and that was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, my time schedules do not always line up with other people's time schedules, but to get that taste was kind of like a beautiful gift that came out of Free Comic Book Day. Yeah. So that was kind of like my Christmas in May for me this year.
There you go. Yeah, and that's gosh, that is so much fun.
I'm so jealous. I'm not gonna lie.
Of what?
Of that doing a sports radio show.
Oh man,
that's literally like.
Well, guys,
I would do that all day.
Dude, we should do it together, dude. I would do that all day with you, Lance. Dude,
I think we can spin off into do other things, because like I will gladly not
this
be
may be
involved.
happening as a Christmas gift today in December.
May. So June. I mean, June sees E3. And
can I say one more thing about May? I just saw
absolutely.
Here. There was May 4th, which is interesting. It's the day before
May
Free
the
Comic
4th be
Day.
with you.
This May the 4th be with you, Star Wars Day, but they did the 30th anniversary screening in theaters of Batman, Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson. I just saw that on there and I go, I did not hear about that at all. Did you guys hear about that earlier this year?
Never heard about that.
How do you not advertise a bigger deal of Tim Burton, Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson, the Batman that put comic book superheroes back in theaters?
I'm Batman.
That is what launched all of what we see today. Goes back to Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson, and Tim Burton taking a risk and making Batman a reality for theaters in a serious way, rather than hey, I'm Adam West and I'm Burt Ward and we're like busting boom bam beams. And it's just, it wasn't serious. Now this was serious comic book superhero making.
Right. I think the problem was, why are you doing it a week after Endgame?
I know, yeah,
that's
true.
the problem.
Yeah,
and you're doing it 2 months before Spider-Man and a month after Captain Marvel, and then there's the Shazam movie. But it sounds like a bad time, because I think I would have heard about it if you did. Like, the only thing I wanted to see was Endgame. Like, that was. I don't know.
And then Endgame was so depressing that like I was like, yes, Detective Pikachu.
Yes, that's true. Exactly, dude. But it was cool to think about, like, that's where this all started. Like a lot of our conversations out of like Tim Burton saying, hey, you know what? I see something in Batman. I can make this work.
Absolutely.
And we get everything that's kind of butterflied effect out of, because as I said too, Richard Donner's Superman was still kind of bright and campy in some ways. Like, he took the risk with Batman of like, let's try to go to a level of taking major actors and put them in a superhero movie and making it work.
Yeah.
And it did. And we get the rest is history.
And Jack Nicholson's very happy that it did.
Yes.
E3 was the biggest thing in June for me, and what a great showing of E3. I mean, we did a whole episode of it back in June.
Yeah, E3 was great, and there was a lot of good games that came out of it. And they got the Marvel games. You got Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. You had Marvel. It was called the Avengers Project, and now they're calling it Marvel A-Day, right? Or is that the name of the company? Or just Avengers? The Square Enix, which we didn't even know was Squared Enix. We always thought it was Squared Enix until that event. And they just kept saying it. I'm like, are they saying it wrong? Like, no, I've been wrong this entire time. But E3 was awesome this year, and they showed a couple new games coming out, and a couple that have come out since then and have done really well. I thought that Star Wars game that they showed more footage of. I was like, this looks terrible, and then it turned out it's amazing. And it's like, oh, EA actually knows how to do, I guess, a solo Star Wars game. They just can't do a multiplayer Star Wars game. But yeah, E3 was for me was awesome.
Yeah, and I'm talking about the new Xbox and the new PlayStation. Although we didn't have official reveals, I mean, it really seems like the future of at least console. I mean, I guess probably all kinds of gaming. I mean, it seems like we're just streaming. You know, I mean, like with
do you like that, or do you still kind of like the hard disc,
you know, as a collector, I like having something, and I know Lance downloads his games, and there's definitely an appeal because like you can pre-install it, and then at midnight you can just start playing, you know, so you don't have to go anywhere. But as like the collector in me wants to collect it, and that's all it is. But I mean, you know, I mean, watch out, GameStop, because that's gonna ruin their whole business model.
Well, GameStop actually has been plummeting. I don't know if you've realized. They've closed hundreds of stores because they're having a hard time keeping up with everything. And then with Stadia being announced and all the games are online and you don't need a physical copy of anything, and it updates and you don't have to worry about updates. The biggest reason I purchase things digitally though is because my wife plays.
Nice.
And if I purchase the game digitally, she can also play the game on the other PlayStation because I just download it to the other one, and now I technically have 2 copies.
That's cool. So it's a shareware.
So
almost
right. So like instead of me having to buy 2 physical copies because I can't play more than once, I just buy 1 digital copy, and now I technically we both can play.
Yes.
That works on PlayStation because we looked it up on Nintendo Switch, and you actually can't pull it off on the Switch. It will automatically pause the first game that started.
Well, it brings down production costs of these video game companies drastically. They don't have to produce the discs anymore. They don't have to produce the packaging. They can just make the digital images that you would see on the packaging, and it's just transferring of, you know, radio signals, transmitting data. And it's kind of a scary thing on that too, because people say, is that where the comic industry is going to? And it's a little bit different, I believe, in collectibles than it is, because gaming started off as always gaming. And I guess you could say comics started off as only reading, but video games have become collectible now too as well. So like eventually I think you're going to see a bounce back era of they're going to start releasing hard packaging again of games because of the collectability behind it. You're already starting to see with these arcade boxes popping up this Christmas, like where the 1-ups or whatever they call them.
Yes.
People are buying like home games.
I have one of those.
Yeah, they're freaking awesome.
I have the Marvel one.
I'm trying to, you know, I got in trouble for getting one because I got the Star Wars one.
And Star Wars one?
Yes, it's got Star Wars, Empire, and Return of the Jedi, and it's got the actual controller how it's supposed to have when I sat in 7-Eleven back in the 1980s,
you didn't know
pumping quarters into it like I was going out of style and playing that, and then going over to play Spy Hunter. I can't wait for the Spy Hunter one to drop because I'll get Spy Hunter 1, 2, and 3 console one if that ever comes out.
No.
It just hit this Christmas. It's already going for more than retail on eBay, and you can still get
didn't
them.
I know about this?
They just released a Turtles one this year too as well.
I did hear about that.
The Turtles one's nothing compared to the Star Wars one.
I thought you knew the Star Wars one. I could have gotten you on.
Oh my gosh, dude! But it's just like it's making what we all loved nostalgic in a physical form again. Do you know what I mean? And I think you're going to have that bounce back over time too, again with console gaming too. And it's already happening. Like there's already like video game nostalgia stores popping up. It's like the next comic book store of the next generation. It's going to be your Atari games, your Nintendo games, your PlayStation games, your Xbox games, all the original packaging, sealed in package. There's already people professionally grading video games, which is to me like that's your next era. I can even see the next in 20 years, you're going to see movies that are not going to be both about comics. They're going to be all about video games by that point.
Yeah, I just, yes.
It's crazy.
Video games are collectible. I mean, especially really the older ones, but I mean, nobody's going to be collecting these like PlayStation 4 games and stuff like it. They're only collectible because it's supply and demand.
Yes.
And, you know, having these old cartridges is one thing, but I mean, luckily, like we can still play, and they'll re-release, you know, some of these modern games. So there's going to be like a finite amount of what's really collectible.
Yes.
But to keep this thing going forward, like I think there's room in the video game industry. Like even if we switch to digital downloads, why can't we still? They sell the digital download cards, so you still have something, but you can still do like a little packaging thing, or you can have incentives where you get the code, but maybe you can get a cool collector's art case, because we know there's special editions of video games that already come with things like that. If these video games, I mean, they could make more money doing it that way too, just to have something to sell in stores, because what's Target and Walmart gonna do? Like, they sell video games.
I know. Well, that's one of their probably their biggest profit margin areas is the video games.
Well, but is it fair to these video game companies that GameStop gets to just resell the disc? Like, they don't see any of that. They don't see any of those proceeds. It's like
I see what you're saying.
It's like a secondhand store or
it's kind of like
a pawn shop.
Like even record shops, comic shops, stamp shop, coin shops. I mean, the post office only gets paid once for those stamps. Yeah. And then people like sell them and resell them over and over again. Same with comic books too. Mm-hmm. And like it's it's GameStop. I really, man, dude, I really do hope they figure out what their next step in evolution is, because they are part of culture and they're like the Toys R Us of video games.
Sure. Well, they were bought by Think Geek, and if you don't know if you've been in a GameStop, over the last couple of months,
they've become like hot topics now.
Yeah, they've completely changed the insides of their stores, and like it's got to be pushing the merchandise, which might save them, and even then, like I'm not sure. Look at Toys R Us
too, as well.
Because they're right now they're going through like I guess kind of like a rebranding thing.
Yes.
Because I know I could be wrong, don't quote me on it, but I know that I think their CEO was had left and they got a new guy, and they're redoing things, and they're like, we have to get rid of costs, and they cut hundreds of stores, and they're just trying to figure it out, because they're going, if it does keep going digital how it's going, they're gonna fall apart, especially with Google Stadia. Stadia could single-handedly ruin, I mean, PlayStation, Xbox, and GameStop. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, they got to push. They got to have a good merchandise push, because there is room for that. Get on the exclusives, and then you maybe convince some of these video games company to still, to come up with some kind of product, to still get a digital code, and then something fun.
Yeah. And maybe we're starting to see some of that already happen with like Fortnite action figures and all these video games getting action figures out now of like that. They're using the video games will start becoming a property to make merchandise off of.
Yeah, and it won't be every video game, but yeah, I mean, a lot of them. I mean, look at it's Tomb Raider, Pokemon.
Pokemon.
There's like 850 Pokemon now, or something crazy. Like, I mean, there's 850 characters just for the Pokemon, not even the playable characters, and like the trainers.
And it keeps the toy market strong too, as well, with introducing all that kind of fun stuff.
It'd be cool. You know how they have the Pokemon plushes?
Yes.
How cool would it be is if they started doing like chases for them,
where
like just randomly 1 in like 1,000 were shiny versions.
No, because I will be going crazy looking for them. So we're halfway through the year here. July brings a game we've probably been waiting for, I want to say for over 10 years. Is that correct? I'm not done with it yet, because this was a great year for movies and video games, but Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. And if you've seen the trailers, it talks about finding the Infinity Stones. Like, how cool is that? What else would you want to do in a Marvel game?
Yeah, it's so good. Lots of nostalgia there too, because last time we played Ultimate Alliance was so long ago, and we had so much fun with it. And it came with DLCs. Wow. And the DLCs were awesome.
And the next upcoming DLC is going to be the Dark Phoenix Saga stuff.
No way. So same game for Ultimate Alliance?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then just before that, they did Blade and with Dracula, and not Dracula. It was, what's Dracula?
Moon Knight, Morbius, Blade, and there was 4 of them. I forgot what the other one was, but I mean, gosh, like,
I'm going to sound behind the times. I haven't had a chance to play it.
We're going to change that.
How's the playability? Is the playability pretty fun to play?
Yeah, it's like one of those like top down. What's that style called? It's like
I don't remember. I just call it aerial view.
Yeah, kind of like, it's really simple. Like A is heavy, A is light attack, B is heavy attack. You don't have to be super skilled. It's fun just to get together, with people and just fight them together. Like, and there's so many bad guys. I mean, like the first arc, you fight all these different like Spider-Man bad guys. So you have to go fight, Green Goblin and I think Mysterio and then Electro, and like, you get to play through things like that. And then you go over to the X-Men area and like all the stuff's going on at the X-Mansion. Like, oh, where's Magneto? Oh, but no, Sentinels are coming. And like, it's a lot of fun. So like you'll
get down and actually
definitely. It's some good stuff for sure. You guys have anything else for July?
I put down Spider-Man.
Okay.
Oh yes,
I honestly
Spider-Man.
overlooked Ultimate Alliance, but Spider-Man that might have been the best that was the best Spider-Man movie
Yes.
ever. I mean,
I think so.
I mean, I'm not saying that that's saying a tremendous amount. It's saying a good amount, but that's great. Like, I mean, we're talking about like great movies, great, finishes to stories. I mean, we had Endgame, we had Star Wars, and now we had an amazing Spider-Man movie that when it and after the credit scene, you're like, what? Oh my God. Like you just lost your mind.
And even though it wasn't like a Thanos kind of after the credits scene, like it was to me, it's still one of the best after the credits scenes ever. It's like,
Yes.
Whoa, like here
His
is
identity's compromised.
that. Plus we saw J.K. Simmons get to reprise his role as J. Jonah Jameson within the MCU, meaning you can look at the Tobey Maguire movies as another dimension of the multiverse, and like
Yes.
that's a thing of the comics. Like nobody's gonna straight up say it, but like we know what that
multiverse
means.
is coming.
And with the multiverse coming, like it's totally acceptable. Like that's so much fun.
Yes. My big thing of July is House of X started.
That's right. I forgot about
Yes,
that.
House of X was by far finally that shot in the arm that the Marvel X-Men universe needed right after the Fox Disney merger.
Yeah.
Let's start something we can make movies about that will be epic and never seen before.
Yeah, and that was a lot of fun.
Yes, and a lot of people are kind of like that, oh man, this is going to be like either the best thing that ever happened to the X-Men or the worst thing that ever happened to the X-Men. And it went over so well that now we're seeing finally fresh X-Men stories.
First modern comics I've really went out of my way to purchase, as far as, Marvel comics go.
Dude, changing one character that was kind of just such a fringe character into one of the most important characters in the mutant history in Moira McTaggart. Spoiler alert if you guys haven't read it.
I thought you were going to say the dodgeball guy.
Yes. Yeah, Gold Balls was, he's same thing too. I mean, him making the eggs to, recreate
Yes,
any
Moira,
mutant.
that's right.
But Moira and Bean, one series was called House of X and the other series was called Powers of 10. I called it Powers of X because I still like to call it Powers of X, but Powers of 10, it was revealed in, the series that the Powers of 10 is because Moira has 10 lives that she can live. And that she has lived, and Destiny told her during one of the lives, you may only have 10 chances at this, so be careful. People are going to start figuring you out. And you're playing with Destiny. No pun intended, obviously, but Jonathan Hickman, he just looks at everything. I feel like Jonathan Hickman read every single freaking X-Men book that ever existed, and he's pulling things, and he's got this giant cloud on his windows, and he's piecing all these Legos together into this masterful universe that he's going to tell you this is how the X-Men should be. Don't F with it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And as we're going through these, a lot of the things we're even talking about, these have been Nightcap chat, episodes even. So, I mean, this is really also a recap of our year. So August, so my favorite thing in August is, I'm really torn with this, but, I think one of our collective favorite things is probably, I think August 31st is Marvel's 80th anniversary. And I mean, sure, that's cool, but I mean, really, the coolest thing that came out of that was a lot of the merchandise that Marvel put out, particularly they did first appearance costumes of the Funko Pops, but also a lot of cool Marvel Legends sets.
That Colossus
as well.
Juggernaut set is beautiful.
There's a set with Jean Grey, Wolverine, and Cyclops.
Yes.
There's a 3-pack that's really cool.
Which is a little interesting.
Which is interesting because of what happened
in House of X.
What happened in House of X.
Yep.
A lot of cool merchandise coming out of that.
They even did a Polaris and Havoc X Factor set, which was kind of a little bit random to me. I'm going, okay.
Yeah, Polaris is cool.
Yeah, but those costumes were the worst X Factor costumes.
Sure.
I think they're kind of trying to call back to the original X-Men costumes in the 90s.
Yeah.
Said, how can we make this look awesome for the 90s? Well, unfortunately, the 90s were the worst costumes in comic book history. You know what I mean? But maybe I'm being a little bit exaggerating. But because I would say, does Deadpool, was that 90 or 89 did Deadpool come out?
Deadpool came out in 90 or 91.
I'll consider him the end of the 80s era. Because you're doing the decade there.
Well, his That's funny is because I recently bought that first appearance Deadpool pop, and he looks more like a clunky Liefeld drawing, which I thought was pretty funny. And my favorite part about this pop in the packaging is his feet are behind the little bar where it says his name, so it's like his feet are kind of hidden. So I don't know. I know I'm overthinking it, but I think that's, to me, that entertains me.
Pops that are in that Funko 80th anniversary.
Oh yeah, like the first appearance Black Widow pop.
Oh, those are cool too. Yes,
the Thanos one.
Yes,
and I have
I
have the first appearance, so I just put it right next to it. I'm just like, this is so cool.
Yes.
That's what I'm gonna start doing. I'm gonna start putting the pops, like the Black Widow one, I put it next to Black Widow. The Vision, I put it next to the Vision. Iron Man, I put it next to my Iron Man first appearance. So I was like, it's so cool, like kind of like having like little figures with it.
And that's what they're kind of designed to do for you, to make like your own little, almost like memorial to these histories in comics. And like one of my favorite things that came out this year too is like a lot of these comics from the 80 years are unattainable just because of how pop culture has become such a collector's economic market now. And with this year, Marvel did facsimile editions for the 80 years. And I love those because you get to see the original presentation of the book as it was in glossy, fresh paper, but has all the ads the same. It has the checklist of the comics that came out that month. And you got to see not only that book, but what was going on in comic culture at that time, which was really kind of fun.
I know I'm alone in this, but one of my favorite things in August was She-Ra season 3, and that was a great season. And I cried, and it was awesome. And we'll just leave it at that. September, and I'm alone in this one as well. My favorite thing, I think, in September was the Steven Universe movie came out, and that was the first new thing since season 5 ended, and kind of introduced us to what they were doing with Steven Universe Future, which is the last season of the series. But the villain in there, Spinel, I saw the trailers and like, I don't know what this is. Like, this is going to be lame. And then now she's like one of my favorite characters. They did such a good job developing this character and everything at Pink Diamond, and her song Other Friends. Like I will literally put it on while I'm cleaning the dishes because it is just such a good song. What do you guys got for September? I know I've just put everyone to sleep here.
No, that's right. September was a big week big month for one of my favorite artists of all time. Spawn hit issue 300.
Todd McFarlane. My gosh, how did I miss that? I'm still going with Steven Universe movie.
Spawn 300 was the more or less 27-year journey of Todd McFarlane getting an independent comic book to reach 300 issues of a superhero that was not from Marvel or DC. And a lot of commitment to it. It was dark, taking superheroes to a whole new direction of things like that. Not, there was Ghost Rider, and there's some darker superheroes like the Punisher, but Spawn was more or less fighting the war between heaven and hell, which is something that was never really done in comics to that level of someone that didn't choose to go to hell, but was chosen to be the greatest warrior of hell because he was one of the top mercs in the world at that time and murdered a lot of people.
Yeah.
And just how McFarlane kind of took this more or less concept that was too dark for Marvel or DC into becoming an epic that is now known as Spawn. They've had movies one movie come out. They've had HBO cartoons come out. I mean, it was where all the other ones unfortunately never hit that same type of thing. Like Youngblood, they had a video game of Youngblood, but nobody cares. Do you know what I mean? But they did Spawn video games and Spawn action figures. They did Spawn became the first major non-Superman Spider-Man franchise to become part of our collecting culture.
Yep. Yeah, and he even gave us he gave Marvel Angela.
Yes, absolutely. Neil Gaiman.
Neil Gaiman did.
Yeah. And that was something interesting too. Is like
Spawn 9's the first appearance of Angela.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I picked up a couple of those in a dollar bin back in the day, and now I'm really glad I did.
Yes.
Also, I mean, is it Age of Ultron number 10 first Marvel Angela, something like that?
Yep, Age of Ultron number 10.
I think I need to get more of those as well. All right, anybody else got anything for September?
Well, for me, it was a huge month because for the Mets.
Oh, yes.
Even though we didn't reach the playoffs, it's okay. Peter Alonso breaks the single-season home run record for rookies.
Nice.
Yes. And he hits 53 homers, and he leads the major leagues in home runs. He breaks the single-season record for rookies for home runs, and he shatters the New York Mets record for homers. And it was just so awesome for a rookie to shatter. The record was 42. He hits 53. He shattered it actually in August. And then he ended up leading the league. He broke Aaron Judge's record, who was a Yankee 2 years ago, who set the record. And he broke that record. And it was such a good, even though we didn't make the playoffs, there was something to look forward to with this rookie that came up and dominated.
Gosh, talk about freaking encyclopedias. Like, I don't even know what you just said. Like, are you making up names?
Yes, I'm making up names. And Jacob deGrom also finishes the season, ends up winning the Cy Young, which is cool.
Yeah, that was awesome, dude. The Mets had a great season. They're building. And I said, too, what you talked about earlier, a billionaire owner, dude. Look what that's done for the Coyotes out here in Phoenix. I mean, I've never seen the Arizona Coyotes in first place this late into the season. And we just made a trade out here for one of the biggest names. I'm not as huge hockey fan as I am a football fan or baseball fan or basketball fan, but it's comparatively, from what I'm listening to on sports radio, equivalent to the Charles Barkley trade for the Suns back in 1993.
Oh, wow.
And 92, 93. And to me, that's like that. If hockey, this is not a hockey town. If they can turn this into a hockey town, of them doing a large playoff push to go to the Stanley Cup, there's going to be a huge uprise in sports fan base in Arizona for the first time since I've been alive in the state.
Well, Westgate could certainly use it. I mean, that went up for foreclosure. So.
The Cardinals in September started the Kyler Murray era too, as well, and that's that first time the Cardinals had the number one pick in the draft.
That happened in September.
Yes, and that's like that. That's the regular season started for the NFL, and so the new era of Cardinals started this year. Phoenix Suns, it's a good times for sports in this community, and it's starting to grow. People may argue with me about it because it looks like it sucks right now, but there's a lot building out here for Arizona sports.
This is really going to be the pilot episode of whatever this spin-off show is going to be here. Sports radio chat.
And I said too, New York sports for sure too as well.
One small thing though, September. There was the Area 51 thing.
Oh my gosh,
yes. September was almost a tragic month.
Yes, dude, I was so waiting to see someone actually stupidly try to actually do it.
That was my wedding anniversary that day that they were supposed to do it. And I'm just like, oh, this might be like the greatest wedding anniversary ever. I was to watch these dumb people run.
Yes. I was convinced that it was going to be a massacre that day. I thought people were actually going to go for it. That would have been a happy Christmas thing, but
it was fun. It was a fun thing it was a fun thing over the year that like people were talking about constantly, like, oh, Area 51, and then all the little memes and silly things that came out of it. It was great.
So October, the main thing really, like, I was really impressed with the Joker movie. I still firmly believe that we did not need it, and it's confusing to the fan base, and I understand it's a separate black label thing like they're doing with the comics, but they think it's more confusing than anything. But Joaquin Phoenix did an incredible job, and I really want to see it again. And it was dark, and it was just good. He did so good as the Joker. It was
didn't have
incredible.
To be a superhero movie. It was one of those things like where it doesn't have to be thought of as a comic movie to be good. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? And that's one of those, I think, that transition type of movies where genre-wise, you could never read a comic book ever in your life and go to see that movie and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's very, very well thought out, very, very dark, I got to admit. It was kind of like uncomfortable at times watching it with the people, in the theater, that when there's like 10 or 15 people in the theater and you're not sure how many of them are ready to snap on their own. You know what I mean? But that's just, that movie was so intense, it made you have those feelings while watching the movie, even though you're in the safest environment possible. It's just, it was just so well done. You couldn't stir emotion. It could not stir emotions of like, wow, these people that go through this, how do you help them in some ways? Because there was like a lot of social political undertones to that movie too. I mean,
like, to me, it was like, man, like I feel like this guy's crazy, but like what he's saying is so right. And I I relate. And that's what's scary, is the part that's to me. And, there's a whole episode Nightcap chat about the Joker. I mean, feel free to listen to that in-depth analysis of that movie. You guys got anything else for October?
I do. Mine's a little different than your guys's. I didn't see the Joker movie because I didn't feel right seeing it, so I didn't go to see it. Because I just didn't want. If I was a Marvel fan and they did something like that, I would be like so upset that they're doing something that's.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely right.
That has nothing to do with my Marvel universe. That might confuse people, and I was like, I'm not a huge Joker fan, and I'm not a huge DC fan, but I won't support it, so I didn't go to the movie. I do want to see it though, however, but I probably will one day. But for me, my October was actually the Fortnite Black Hole event.
Ooh, that's interesting.
So this is when like no one, Fortnite season 10 was coming to an end and nobody knew what season 11 was going to bring. There was all these crazy clues and whatever. And honestly, I was like kind of like over Fortnite and didn't really care about it. And then all of a sudden I was like, you know what? I'm going to watch the event, play online, whatever, watch my favorite streamers and just see what happens. And Fortnite gets sucked into a black hole. There's this crazy event. All this crazy stuff happens.
What do you mean like a black hole, dude? Elaborate.
There was like this huge, there's like all these missiles because it's just, there's a lot to explain, but because it's been like 2 years of just events that have slowly happened. But they eventually ended up going back in time and there was all these like little rifts.
Oh, that's cool.
And then there was this missile and then somehow there was like 10 of them and they came out of nowhere and they're all just going all over the place. But anyway, they ended up crashing onto the island and exploding, and it sent Fortnite into a black hole.
Nice.
And everyone was just like, okay, this is cool. And like, 5 minutes goes by and you're like, all right, what's going on? And an hour goes by and you're like, all right, well, what's happening? And there's literally millions of people on Twitch watching, millions of people on YouTube watching, and like 20 people on Mixer watching. And you're just like, what's going to happen? And literally days go by where you go onto the game and it's just a black hole. There's nothing else. And like, it just left everyone that was like, to me, I wasn't even really into it. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is happening right now?
Essentially, they deleted Fortnite for a few days.
They even deleted it on Twitch. There's categories.
People just like freak out.
Yeah, people were like, little kid. There was videos of little kids crying because they thought Fortnite was over.
Wow.
Like they got so many little kids, but it was so cool because they deleted their like Twitter account. All their Twitter feed was completely gone, and their little icon was just a black hole. They did all these crazy things.
I didn't realize it was that elaborate.
On Twitch, there was no longer a Fortnite category. It was gone. They deleted it. There was no Fortnite. The website was gone. Everything was gone. And then eventually, after like 4 or 5 days or a week, they brought it back and they gave you it was in season 11 and ended up being chapter 2.
Gotcha. Well, 2 more months left in the you got something?
One more thing with October too was that I've been a lot of people dropped off this bandwagon, but Walking Dead season 10.
Yeah, I dropped off that bandwagon.
Started again, and I said too, I think that they're in one of the most intriguing seasons right now when they're dealing with the Whisperers.
Yeah.
And the Whisperers
even though Carl's not around.
Yes, even though Carl's not around, dude. It's like the other thing that was very disappointing for 2019, which was totally shocking, was they ended the Walking Dead comic series out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Do you remember us talking about that earlier this year? To me, that was one of the most shocking moments. Speaking of Walking Dead, I wish I touched on it earlier if it was an earlier month. But Walking Dead has been one of my go-to reads every month.
Yeah.
For the past, I want to say 7 years, because I got onto the bandwagon a little bit late, but I wanted actually 11 years because I wanted to be caught up on what was happening before the TV series started so I could talk to customers about it.
Yeah.
And plus my wife, Susan, she cannot watch any horror movies with me, but she picked up Walking Dead and like, oh my gosh, this is so good. And she powered through it.
Yeah.
I'm going, wait a minute. Like you're reading a zombie book. You won't even watch Friday the 13th with me.
Oh, that's funny.
And so next thing I know is I picked it up and read it from beginning to end. I'm going, this is some of the most intriguing interpersonal storytelling in an apocalypse I've ever seen. And the Whisper War was by far the culmination of the redemption of a lot of things, including Negan during that comic story. So I'm not sure if they're going to play that out in the TV series, but the Whispers there's so many good actors part of it right now. I don't know if you ever watched Sons of Anarchy.
No.
But the actor who played Opie's playing Beta right now.
Okay.
And he's just he was also just an amazing, fun actor to watch too as well. And it's different. It's like it's post Rick in the storytelling too. And that's how unfortunately they ended the comic series. As Rick died, they did one more story, just challenging up like how the Walking Dead universe was 20 years later. And it was kind of just out of nowhere, this series is over. I mean, this culture of comic books, even though the TV series is still going, is no longer there.
Yeah, I mean, it must be a reason. It would be interesting to see what Robert Kirkman comes up with and why he, what it is he's going to bring us that made him decide to end. I mean, arguably, it's probably flagship book.
Yes.
November, I wanted to go one way with it, but when that was Pokemon Sword and Shield, but it has to be, I mean, what is a better Christmas gift for November than Disney Plus?
I disagree with you.
What do you mean?
I think Pokemon was bigger than Disney Plus.
Pokemon Go?
Pokemon Sword and Shield.
Sword Shield?
The new main series Pokemon. I already have almost like 40 hours, I think, into the game. But I mean, Disney Plus brought us all the Disney movies, and it brought us The Mandalorian.
Yes.
You know, and it's going to be
those movies. It's just a little more convenient now.
I understand. That's why that's why I have them both written out here. But I mean, it's hard to say like Disney Plus wasn't the highlight of November, especially with how good The Mandalorian's going, and then that's what's going to bring us shows like What If and whatever.
Yeah, that's. I think that's going to be the exciting thing. Once we get the What If, we get the She-Hulk, we get all those shows that Marvel's going to be bringing. That's going to be really, really interesting to see how it works. And then, of course, there's also the WandaVision.
Yes,
that's going to be the big one. But for me, it was Pokemon Sword and Shield because it was a game that I've been waiting for like, I don't know, 20 years for them to come out with a Pokemon game that's on a console and not a handheld device, and they did it perfectly.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Definitely one of my favorite Pokemon games for sure. I just wish it had all the Pokemon, but I mean, we just saw in the last data mine, you know, we only have 400 Pokemon, but there's 35 more that they have not put in the game.
Well, I was thinking about this the other day. If they did that, right? Let's just say they're going to put out the game and they're going to have all 900 Pokemon. Well, where do they go after that? You know, then the next game's just going to have the new ones and then that's it. So I think they were just kind of trying to leave it open for, well, let's see how this game goes, and if we'll fix whatever maybe we need to fix, and then next game we'll have the other half.
That's what I think it is too, because I mean, if you look at the last generation of games, besides transferring up, within that generation you could only get half of them, and then the subsequent set you were able to get the rest of them all within the last generation. I think that's what people's problem was, is that we were not able to transfer up from the previous games up to this point, because that's unprecedented, I believe.
Well, can I make it even like more specific, and it's just Baby Yoda?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because no one's gone. I've never seen anything just blow up the internet more than a little Baby Yoda that's not even sure whether it's Yoda or what the heck it is.
Or what its name is.
Yeah, what kind of species it is, but it's just the most adorable, cute thing since freaking Teddy Ruxpin. It seems like people are treating it like. It's like, oh my gosh, it talks. It uses the Force. It doesn't need batteries. This is amazing.
And I think it's like, it's big. Even if people don't even like Star Wars, they know what it is. They know they know of it. And I'm sure people are also getting into it just from like memes, because it's all over the internet, on Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is that you use, Reddit. It's just blowing up all social media, and it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, Baby Yoda is like a mainstream meme right now, for sure.
And I said, dude, and I think it because it caught us so off surprise. We were so excited about the Mandalorian, we didn't see this extra character that was not. They kept it under a blanket tighter than, you know, Santa Claus wrapping up all the presents on the sleigh.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But he was able to, Jon Favreau was able to surprise us as Star Wars fans with something that we had no idea that was coming to us. So it's like the Ewok craze back in Return of the Jedi. You know, like, unfortunately we saw the Ewoks before the movie probably even hit, but it's probably... And I said too, it's the biggest new thing in Star Wars since Star Wars itself. It sounds kind of weird saying that, the way it reacted.
No, it really is. I mean, like, this part of those memes are like, you know, this is the thing that has reunited the fan base and has gotten everyone excited. And this is people who are even like really hating on the new Disney Star Wars stuff, even love Baby Yoda. Like, everybody loves Baby Yoda.
Yeah, Baby Yoda's awesome.
And people made so much money
or the child, if you will.
It's like, and I like how Hasbro held off on putting out Baby Yoda merchandise before the movie launched.
Good for Disney for keeping that a secret.
Yes, because they could have made a huge money grab on that, and they did not.
Well, they are now.
There are now.
Yeah, but they could have made so much money this Christmas.
Oh yeah,
and they waited because they did not want to spoil that, because that merchandise would have to be out before Thanksgiving. for it to just be Christmas thought of.
Hot Topic had a couple of shirts, and I don't think Erica is going to be listening to this, but I ran to Hot Topic and I got her a Baby Yoda shirt for Christmas. But like they literally sold out in hours.
Yes,
like I was lucky that Box Lunch
merchandise
still had them. Luckily, they released a second shirt when we went back a couple of days later, and Shell's was like, "No, don't do it," because it was an ugly shirt. But it was a really cool, like black one with Baby Yoda, and had like a purple background. It's a really nice shirt.
It's almost like they didn't even release information to Hasbro that this was coming until after it actually happened, and that's why it's taking forever to get. Because I guess it's gonna be May when the stuff starts hitting, like the Funko stuff, and then the
the Funko stuff's up for pre-order. I don't know when it's coming out though.
Because as soon as they saw that, dude, they went to production design on that immediately. Damn, I said too, that was one of the best gift wrap secrets I've ever seen done in pop culture in a long time.
Well, hopefully that they're not like, well, he's gonna die anyway, so why are we gonna make a toy?
Can you imagine the outcry? Well, the people like hanging Baby Yoda or hanging like Jon Favreau for killing Baby Yoda, and Baby Yoda kind of like electrifying like Jon Favreau for killing him.
They might have to reshoot The Mandalorian just because of how popular it is. Because if they did do something like that, they might have to be like, well, maybe we have to go somewhere else because it's not going to work.
Exactly.
I'm calling it right now without turning this into a Mandalorian episode. The season finale is this Friday. I'm calling it right now. So Dave Filoni is producer, and he directed some of the episodes of The Mandalorian. He created Clone Wars and Rebels and Resistance. So I believe he's the one who came up with Ahsoka. I think since this is a Force-sensitive baby, like the last scene, is Kara's gonna, use her Rebel connections to bring this Force-sensitive baby to Ahsoka. Wow. It's going to be the first live action Ahsoka. That's how I think this is going to end. And it's going to be an emotional goodbye. And the Mandalorian's going to have to leave Baby Yoda with Ahsoka because, he can't help, Baby Yoda, I think that's what's going to happen. Wow. I'm calling it right now.
Man, dude.
All right.
We'll see.
Come on. That would be awesome though.
Yeah.
So December, how can you not say that the best thing in December, and this, no spoilers, but the final installment in the Skywalker saga, Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker.
Nice.
A great ending to, since this started all in 1977, all this filmmaking over 40 years has come to this, and it's here, and it was, and without going into too much detail, it was good.
Yeah, it was great, and they ended it perfectly. They like, again, we're trying not to say anything. That's for our episode coming up next year. But it was a great film. They ended it perfectly. They tied up a lot of things that we were hoping for, and man, if you haven't seen it, go see it.
Yeah, definitely. Because we know it's only been out for a few days, so we don't want to spoil it for you guys. But I mean, how can you argue like that wasn't one of the most exciting pop culture things in December 2019? I don't know if anything can really top that.
I mean, it's that too. It was like I was hoping it was going to be good. I was going, okay, it's like that. No matter what happens at Star Wars, I'm going to enjoy it. Mm-hmm. But to come out of there with so many like, oh wow, moments, it's like, oh man, another one. Oh, I see what's happening here. Oh my gosh, they're going to do it. It's like everything that they could do, they got away with doing, and I don't think it could make anybody angry except Rotten Tomatoes, because Rotten Tomatoes are Rotten Tomatoes in the first place, so they don't have to like anything.
That's why they're called Rotten Tomatoes, right?
So I was a little bit disappointed when I saw the Rotten Tomatoes score. I'm going, are you serious, dude? They're going to hate on a Star Wars movie?
Yeah, it proves it doesn't matter what the critics think. And you know what? This isn't for them.
Yeah,
so
I said too. It's like if you enjoy Star Wars, you cannot not enjoy this movie.
That's our wrap up of the year. No new episode next week. This was just our Christmas special. We're going to take the new year off, and we will be back the following week with our Star Wars Episode 9 episode. And guess what? We already recorded it, so it's it is ready to go.
It's gonna happen.
We know for sure that's what it's going to be.
Yeah, and we really try not to say any spoilers because we literally just did a whole episode of nothing but spoilers. So don't worry, we're not going to say anything. But Yeah, we're excited for you. We're excited if you haven't seen it, go see it right now.
Yes, go see this movie before you listen, because it's going to be a lot of fun to hear your guys' feedback on what you guys thought of it. As much as we enjoyed it, prove us wrong. I want to hear people say like that. What are we forgetting about that could have been done that is just going to make this movie 10 times more epic than it actually was? And if they hear that, then they'll make it, because that seems like how social media, podcasting, and all this stuff, like the people that are the creators want to make us happy.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Who knows what that could birth out?
And feel free to comment. What were your favorite things from 2019 that happened this year that we didn't touch on? I mean, this was another great year to be a fan of almost anything, really. Especially with wrapping up things like 11 years of Marvel filmmaking and over 40 years of Star Wars stories. And great comics are in a great place as well. But man, I think we started the season of Nightcap Chat back in March. This brings us to an end to what I'm calling season 1. Season 2 will start in a couple of weeks, and we are looking forward to bringing you this podcast again, but even better. And we would love to hear what more you would like to hear from us, and what other topics you would like to hear us cover that we may not have even thought of yet. But we appreciate you all, making us a part of your pop culture experience. Please continue to like, share, subscribe, and leave reviews on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Podbean, YouTube, or wherever podcasts are given away for free. But thank you all for listening, and have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, guys. See you in 2020.